Welcome back to the Sideline Sorcerers. Now, I should have known last week after you provided me with your thumbnail stats that the Rams were going to lose, and I should have changed my pick because we know that the corner QB always loses.
And they've been losing a lot lately. This is the sixth time in a row that the corner QB, the QB that I select to put in the bottom left corner of the thumbnail, has lost.
That's just such a wild stat, bro. And of course, the left QB pulled off another victory.
Yep,
Josh
four-game
Allen.
winning streak.
Yep, I'm glad I picked that one. And then Mahomes lost this week, so 4-game losing streak for the right QB, which all of that just begs the question, what is going to be on the thumbnail this week? Do you want to reveal it?
I'll reveal it, yeah. So I actually went to the Bears game over the weekend, and so I'm a little high on Justin Fields right now, and so I actually took a really good picture, I'd say, of him. We were like 6 rows back of the Bears sideline at the 50-yard line, and he was talking to Darnell Mooney and getting like really animated with lots of hand gestures, and he was facing the crowd while doing this. And so I snapped some pretty good pics, and with some photo editing, I removed the background, and that is what you're looking at. That picture is completely original from my iPhone. And yeah, so I figured why not use that on the thumbnail. Pretty excited about how it looks. And yeah, that quarterback is favored to lose this week. We'll see if he can break the streak, though.
I love that, bro. I'm very excited to find out. It seems like it's probably kind of likely that the Bears lose since, Eberflus just finally got his first 2-game win streak of all time. So
yeah, law of averages.
Yeah, I don't know that he would be able to pull off 3, but I think I am going to end up picking him this week, or picking the Bears rather. Ooh. But we will get into that in a little bit. But do you want to start with the recap for our games here?
For sure. So week 14. Jake went 7-8, bringing his total on the year to 124-84. I went 8-7, bringing mine to 129-79. I will say this week featured the most upsets of the entire season at 8. Week. So honestly, escaping with the records that we had, I think, is pretty remarkable, to be honest. When you have 8 upsets, that's more than half of the games right there. So, at the end of the day, we still came out ahead. So Thursday night football, Amazon Prime, New England at Pittsburgh. Really good pick on New England, and honestly a really surprising win for them. Bailey Zappi just went off on Pittsburgh's defense. And honestly, I felt good about Pittsburgh in this game. Coming off of an embarrassing loss to the Cardinals, they typically tend to bounce back. But with Mitchell Trubisky in there, he didn't play horrible, but he didn't play great. Had an interception in there. Honestly, he probably should have had 2. One of them got called back on a penalty. And yeah, he still put up some points and kind of made it competitive. But, the Patriots just jumped out to a huge lead and they held it.
Yeah, this just felt like a weird game because I think that New England scored all 3 of their touchdowns in the first half, and then they they just do nothing for the rest of the game. Like, I expected this game to honestly be like New England doesn't score much at all, maybe 6 points and like a 6-3 win, and then they score 3 right away, but then do nothing, and then Pittsburgh just goes nuts in the second half, which is wild.
It was weird. It's concerning if you're a Pittsburgh fan. You just lost to 2 of the worst teams in the league, and you were like looking really good. Like I have mentioned many times this year, Pittsburgh has had the easiest schedule, it seems, of the entire league. And then, here you have 2 more super easy games, one of which at home, and you just squander them both. And honestly, you're in jeopardy of losing your playoff spot. But because everyone else lost around you, you still are the 6th seed somehow, which is just mind-boggling to me. But yeah, we'll see how they bounce back. I think they will. I'm going to take them against Indianapolis. We'll get to that. But good win for the Patriots. They needed it. Happy for Bailey Zappi. Had an interception, but I think, at the end of the day, he was pretty fantastic.
Well, I owe you an apology for the next game because I basically forced you to take Houston.
I am mad at you for this because, all these weeks I've been picking against Houston, and now the one week that I don't.
I should have known, man. I just don't understand.
Kept with it, man.
Is it just is it actually Tank Dell who has been leading their offense to all the victories, and it wasn't CJ after all?
I think that definitely plays a part to it. And, obviously you're playing in the cold, you're on the road against a really good defense.
But they just got completely pounded. It wasn't even close.
But I do think it was accentuated a little bit by CJ Stroud going out. But then again, he still threw 23 pass attempts, 10 for 23, only 92 yards or whatever. Yeah. So he was not great when he was in the game, and I mean, they still would have lost if he played the entire game.
Right.
Zach Wilson had his best game of his entire career, I would say. Really impressive performance out of him, honestly, because Houston's defense, no slouch, So, yeah, I mean, I just feel like they were bound to kind of regress a little bit because they've been so hot, but like they're still really, really young and growing and learning. Right. So I think this was just one of those games like you're going up to a cold environment. I feel like whenever like a warm weather team or a dome team goes into a cold environment, it's, you always got to look second at it. Like Jacksonville at Cleveland. Jacksonville, I think, has lost like the majority of their games over the last couple of years when they have to go on the road to a cold weather environment. And sure enough, they lost again. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be worried if you're a Houston fan because of the fact that, I mean, you're still outperforming almost everyone's expectations. Like I think that no one expected you to have even 4 wins this year. So.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I'm actually not even going to take them this week.
I saw that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I know CJ's out, but
yeah, I'm just a little worried about him. CJ's gone. I think Nico Collins is maybe in some sort of injury state. Yeah. So and obviously Tank Dell is out for the season. So yeah. I'm a little concerned for their whole team now.
Yeah, I mean, CJ out's definitely the worst one, but Davis Mills has plenty of experience. He started for like 2 full seasons just about.
I mean, yeah, but he's still bad. I mean,
he's put up some good games, dude. Like he's had some good games. I honestly feel for him. Like I feel like he should have deserved another shot on a better team because there were some games where he kind of played out of his mind. But anyways, moving on to the Rams at Baltimore, probably the best game, arguably of the week here just in terms of excitement. Big time shootout. The Rams get up early. Baltimore comes and fights back. And at the end of the day, going to overtime, I think the Rams got the ball first and then punted away. And, Baltimore scored on that, which honestly is a horrible way to lose, in my opinion. Like, if you're going to lose, like, make them go down the field on you. You don't even you didn't even force them to run their offense onto the field. So, tough for special teams at the Rams. But, this is a side. But on, I think it was Friday, Furman played at Montana in FCS playoff game, college football, and Furman was like 12. Actually, no, they were like 14 to 16 point underdogs. Okay. And yet they were competing this entire game. They end up losing in overtime, 35 to 27. 2 of the touchdowns were given up on kick returns.
No way.
Can you believe that?
That's ridiculous.
So if you're Furman special teams, like you are horrible because you were not supposed to win this game and you gave up 14 points on special teams, including the game winner in overtime. But anyways, basically what I'm trying to say, special teams are important and you got to make sure you're buttoned up.
Yeah, definitely. I want to call some attention to Keaton Mitchell here, bro. I don't feel that he is getting enough playing time.
No?
I feel like this guy is something special, like kind of similar to Devon Achane on Miami. I mean, this guy's averaging like 8 yards a touch.
Yeah, that is wild. I think he's actually leading the league.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's like a minimum carry attempt, but yeah, no, he's been fantastic.
And he's not even like the primary running back. Like he's Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. Like they're still getting carries over Keaton.
I think they're using them wisely, kind of like sparingly here and there and in the right situations. And until they lose a game here, I think, you got to hand it to the coaching staff for utilizing the talent that they have. I think this was a really just good game overall, and hopefully they can start utilizing Keaton Mitchell more when needed. But yeah, I mean, Matt Stafford's been playing phenomenal the last 3 games. Lamar Jackson had a pretty good game here as well, even though he had an interception, but they still won.
Yeah, I hope that this doesn't ruin the Rams' chances at the playoffs here. I really did think they were going to pull off a victory here, and it's
it came close.
Yeah, it's kind of putting them in a very tough spot to make the playoffs now.
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks. I'd much rather see them in the playoffs over whoever comes out of the
Atlanta
NFC
division?
South. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd rather see the Bucs than anyone else in that division, but it very well could be the Saints, very well could be the Falcons, So, I mean, I think all those teams are worse than the Rams, and it just kind of sucks the way it, is going to pan out. Honestly, I think the Rams are better than the Vikings, who have a better record right now. I think the Rams are better than the Packers, who have the same record as them. So, yeah, it's a tight race right now. I do think the Rams are going to get in. Like, I really do. I think the Vikings are trending down.
I hope so, man.
I think it's going to be between them and Green Bay. So you're looking at, Philly and Dallas, of course, whoever wins that division. Whoever doesn't is going to be the best wild card team that will face the NFC South winner. And then you'll have, of course, Detroit and the Niners in there. And I think it will, eventually be, down to 2 teams, Packers and Rams. I think the Vikings are going to completely fall out of it. And then, you don't really have to worry about anyone else besides the Seahawks. And the Rams already have swept the Seahawks this year. So I really do think, at minimum, they get that 7 seed with a pretty good chance of even getting the 6 seed. So
that would be huge.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it because they really deserve it. Carolina at New Orleans. I thought this would be a closer game. I really thought Carolina would cover the spread because they have no incentive to lose these games, and yet they still just keep getting pounded. Man, it's one of those games like whenever no one's watching, New Orleans just blows out a team. Like when they blew out the Patriots earlier, they beat the Colts earlier this year, and then they lose some games where everyone kind of gets back on board. They lost to the Falcons last week. Everyone's off the bandwagon. Now they just blow out the team. Derek Carr, I have to hand it to him. He's going through some shit. He is playing through a ton of injuries. He's I think it said he's broken 3 ribs this year. He's obviously had concussion things. He had a shoulder injury. The bro is just an absolute trooper. And, he didn't throw for a ton of yards, but he had 2 touchdowns, won them the game. Really, happy to see that. I think if he is healthy, he really could be good in New Orleans. It's just, their receiving core is depleted. Rashid Shaheed out, Michael Thomas out. And Kamara is
even
just
Taysom Hill was out this
week.
week.
Him too, so I'm really, really impressed, honestly, with what they have been able to do despite the injuries.
Yeah, they're just kind of a tough team for me to figure out. They just have those bozo games where they can't do anything.
That's what I'm saying. I know, against the Falcons, man, they had 3-4 field goals in that game.
Yeah, and then they nearly beat Detroit. I know that they went down 3 touchdowns in the first 8 minutes of the game, but then they staged an incredible comeback and nearly win the game.
I know.
I just they're just a fickle little team. I just can't figure them out.
Yeah, I agree. They're kind of like Pittsburgh. You just can't really figure them out. They don't win the games they're supposed to, and they win some and stay close in others that they aren't supposed to.
Yeah.
Then we have Indianapolis at Cincinnati. This one was a big surprise to me, honestly. I cannot get over that Jake Browning continues to ball out. He did have a pick 6 in this game, but Cincinnati's defense was also just elite. I'm disappointed in the Colts. They're contending for the playoffs right now. They still luckily also, Pittsburgh and Indianapolis both lost, but are still in the playoffs.
Right.
Very, very odd because everyone has the same record at 7-6, but tiebreakers and whatnot head to head. Gardner Minshew had a little bit of a rough game, but their offense just couldn't get anything going, and it was tight at 14 apiece at one point, but then Cincinnati just pulled away. Really got handed to Jake Browning. He's just playing out of his mind.
He is. I actually learned a pretty interesting stat about him. I don't know if you know this, but of all of the quarterbacks in the league right now, Jake Browning had the most touchdowns in high school.
Really?
By a lot, and it's not
really?
even close.
Wow.
He had something 90 something in high school, and I think that the next most, it might have been actually Russell Wilson. I think he was maybe in at 81. But Jake Browning, top high school performer. Evidently.
You heard it here. We just gotta start drafting him out of high school.
I guess
don't even go to college.
Yeah, I definitely underestimated him. I just thought that the Colts, would, when they're in the playoff picture, that they would come in and they'd kind of take advantage of this new quarterback who's very inexperienced, and he just showed him up.
I can't believe at this point now Cincinnati lost that game to Pittsburgh earlier a couple weeks ago at home too. It's I really thought, Pittsburgh, if they lost to the Bengals or if they beat the Bengals and then went on to lose to the Cardinals and the Patriots, I felt that showed that the Bengals actually aren't very good either.
Right.
But, man, they've just been coming out and kind of just hanging points on teams. Honestly, it really makes me sad that Joe Burrow isn't healthy.
Yeah.
Because if he was, they're playing great football on every end of the spectrum, defense, special teams. And with Joe Burrow, I think you cut down those mistakes, you add a little bit of experience and explosiveness, and they could have had a real shot to make a Super Bowl here again. And it sucks because we all know, Jake Browning very well could, win some more games and maybe even make a playoff game, but the train will end. It's always going to, come to a close here eventually. But Really wish Joe Burrow was healthy at the end of the day.
I would love to see that, though, if Browning made a playoff game, see what he could do. Almost like a Brock Purdy kind of story.
Yeah, I know, like for real. It very is similar to that, or maybe even Nick Foles. But even, at Philadelphia, Nick Foles had plenty of experience before that, whereas Jake Browning has had none.
Right.
If Cincinnati makes the playoffs, I feel like it's going to be the 6 or the 7 seed, so they'll play the 2 or the 3 seed. So I don't see him getting past the first round of the playoffs no matter what, because they'll be on the road.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
He just has no playoff experience. So I don't know. I mean, who knows? Wilder stuff has happened. But moving on, Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Really happy that Tampa Bay came through in this one. Kind of an odd game. People thought could be lower scoring, but ended up being higher scoring, and just so happy to see Tampa Bay finally utilize that offensive talent I was talking about. Rachaad White really getting going in the running game in the last few weeks, and now they are in the lead for the division. Voila.
Yeah, I mean, Rachaad White is going absolutely ballistic, dude. He is a top fantasy asset this year. I think he's the running back 4.
I mean, that's mind-boggling because he did jack squat with Tom Brady last year. It's like if he played like he is this year, the Bucs would have been in so much better shape because Tampa, I think Tom Brady set the record for the most pass attempts last year because they couldn't run the ball.
Yeah, I think that he was drafted probably in like the 7th round or so in terms of like fantasy drafts this year. So if you're in a keeper league, I honestly would highly consider taking like a Rachaad White for the 7th. Like that seems like great
really
value.
Good.
Yeah, but Mike Evans was very oddly quiet this week. Normally he's been the star for this, Tampa Bay team. And,
I think Cade Otton got the receiving touchdown.
Yeah, and Godwin had more yards this week than Mike Evans. Mike Evans hardly did a thing.
He'll still be all right. He'll still have 1,000 yards for like the 9th or 10th straight season in a row.
For sure.
Jacksonville at Cleveland, another good, like high-scoring game. Really shocked. When you see Trevor Lawrence, collapse on the field against Cincinnati, slam his hand on the turf, take off his helmet, slam the helmet on the ground, like you think, surely he'll be out a few weeks. Like surely he feels like he knows, like, damn, like I'm in a ton of pain. Like I know this is bad. I know I'm going to miss time. And I know what this means for the team. But, you're back.
Yeah, he's just an angry little South Pole elf.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, similarly to Derek Carr, good for him for pulling through the injury. C.J. Beathard had like a shoulder injury, so I guess they figured that Trevor Lawrence, both of them are banged up, but obviously, I guess when you put them on even playing field, Trevor Lawrence is still going to be better. I mean, he did have 3 touchdowns, threw for a decent amount of yards. The 3 picks, I just think it reminds me of his very, very first game as a pro. He threw 3 touchdowns and 3 picks in that game as well. Very, very kind of full circle moment there. But I think it just has to do with the injury. Like that's why he's not being as precise and he's playing with some pain right now. So I don't think he had like a regression game or anything. It probably just has to do with the injury. But Joe Flacco continues to impress for Cleveland, which is just so crazy. It feels like he's been gone and irrelevant. Yeah.
Many years.
We do have to remember he won a Super Bowl with the Ravens, so he's plenty competent. And if you're a Ravens fan right now, like I'd be a little scared because there's nothing more Joe Flacco wants to do
than to face the Ravens and pound them.
Yeah, although I think I need to look back at the schedule. They already have finished their games, unfortunately, for the season. The Ravens won the first one in Cleveland, and the Browns won the second one in Baltimore. So the only time they could reunite is in the playoffs, which is possible as well.
Yeah.
So, man, there's nothing more he wants to do to beat his old team. So look out, Ravens, if you have to face Joe Flacco. But, really cool story going on there. Just backup quarterbacks across the league right now. It's a little disappointing, with C.J. Stroud going down as well. But, you have any thoughts on this game?
Not a whole lot to add on this game, but I was going to ask you, when is the last time that Joe Flacco started in the league? Do you know?
I know he played for the Jets a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, he was on the Jets in 2020, 2021, and 2022.
Yeah, I think
but I don't know
probably
if he
started a game last season. I think he did start a game like earlier last season.
Oh yeah, he did. I feel like I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I mean, there were times where he actually played well in the Jets, but then Mike White started playing pretty good for the Jets, so then he was the starter.
Yeah.
And then Zach Wilson, retook the claims and all that. And, obviously the Jets have had so many quarterbacks, but
the last time he played a full season was with the Ravens in 2017.
Oh yeah, the last full season was eons ago.
That's crazy.
Because he was on the Broncos for a period of time as well.
2019 he was on the Broncos.
So he made a couple starts there. So he's been bouncing around, but good for him. Maybe he's found a more permanent home. I'm just glad to see him still playing at a high level.
Definitely.
Detroit at Chicago. This is the game I went to. Immediately when I knew I was going to this game, I was like, I want the Bears to win. Like, the Bears are going to win. So my pick went out the window. And yeah, sure enough, Chicago pulled out the upset. Like, seeing this game in person, though, the Bears were not as impressive as they may have looked. Honestly, I was a little concerned about Justin Fields. He was hanging in the pocket so long. Most of the time, though, he got out and went for like a 20-plus yard run. But there was a couple times where he got sacked. And it's just a little precarious, obviously opening up the opportunity to fumble. And I think against like better teams, better defensive fronts, like he's going to get his ass put on the ground like way sooner. And against better teams, he's not going to be able to go for those longer runs. He's going to get tackled much quicker, So he's got to learn to throw the ball away. Like there's so many times in this game where I was screaming, throw the ball away. And yeah, I mean, he proved me wrong some of those times by going for a run, but I just think I'm still not super sold on him. I do think if I'm Chicago, unless he plays amazingly over the next 4 games, I'm drafting Caleb Williams. I'm trading him to the Seahawks or the Falcons and calling it a day and moving on, drafting a good receiver or good defensive player and just completely starting anew. Because I don't really believe in him long term. I don't know, man. I liked what I saw. Like, it was a fun game to be at for sure. And Detroit got absolutely throttled. And it was actually kind of crazy. There was this 4th down in the game. It was like 3rd and 2, and then 4th and 1, and they didn't get it. So it's like you had 2 opportunities to get 2 yards, and you couldn't convert. Detroit went down the field and scored a touchdown and tied the game, missed an extra point. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, at that point in the game, you're feeling like Detroit's going to retake the lead and win the game. I mean, the Bears went up 10 and instantly blew it. But yeah, Detroit looked awful in the second half. It seemed like Detroit's offensive line that had played so well this year was kind of crumbling at the seams. So yeah, I mean, good win for Chicago. It seems like just kind of the law of averages. Like they should have won in Detroit a couple weeks ago. They didn't. So then they got this one.
Yeah, I'm just a little frambommeled by Detroit, dude. I know I picked the Bears to win, but they feel like another team that seems hard for me to figure out. Like they're losing a game to obviously, one of the worst teams in the league here in Chicago, and yet they've looked so dominant for most of the rest of the year. And then they dropped one. Who they faced last week? I forgot.
Well, they beat the Saints, but before that, they lost to the Packers.
Yeah. And I feel like on Thanksgiving that they should have won that game against the Packers.
I think they're totally going to be fine,
You think?
They've encountered, like, in that Packer game, they had, like, 3 fluky fumbles. If they don't fumble 3 times in, like, the first quarter, they win that game. This Bears game, they were bound to lose this one. It's in Chicago. The crowd was nuts. I was there.
Right, you were the good luck charm for the Bears.
Dude, immediately if they found out I was going to be there, they should have just forfeit. You know what I mean? I mean, my voice is just so voluptuous. And,
I agree.
You know what I mean? But
here's the question. Did you bet on the Lions in the same way that you bet against Notre Dame when you go to those games?
No, I don't care that much. Like, I am so much more invested in Notre Dame football than I am in the Bears game. Actually, you know what? I did bet on the Lions. But it wasn't to protect my emotions at all. Like, if the Bears lost this game, I would not have felt that sad about it, unlike I do if Notre Dame were to lose. But I think the Lions will be fine, like they'll win the division still. They're very likely they're going to host a playoff game, and they're, very likely, I think, to even win that playoff game. They just have hit a little bit of a rough stretch and, turn the ball over in some fluky ways. And yeah, I mean, that's just, you're going to lose a couple games like that, but they're still 9-4. At the end of the day, they're still 9-4. They have they have 2 more games against the Vikings, right? Okay. So I feel like both of those are wins. So at bare minimum, you're finishing the season 11-4 or 11-6 or whatever it is, 11-6 it is. So I think they're going to be totally fine. But I mean, as far as the playoffs go, I think their best situation is winning 1 playoff game. I don't think they make it to the conference championship.
I can agree. They're too inconsistent.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on to Seattle at San Francisco. Just no one really cares about this game. We saw it on Thanksgiving. It was bad, not fun. It was a little fun, a little more fun in this game, right? Drew Lock is playing. He actually kept them in the game. I think they had a lead at some point, but at the end of the day, as per usual, San Fran is just going to outlast you. Brock Purdy with a sensational game. And this dude is just pushing the ball down the field like a maniac. He actually holds the record currently for the most yards per attempt in a season at 9.9.
Wow.
Which is just wild. There are quarterbacks like Josh Allen. I love him, but so many of his games, like his yards per attempt are like 6 or less,
Right.
And it's because he just dinks and dunks a lot. And actually, it more has to do with he throws a lot more attempts than Brock Purdy does. But, man, the fact that he had like 27 attempts and threw for 368 yards in this game is wild. The bro is just pushing the ball down the field and, making some big plays. Really happy for him. And, yeah, I mean, you're gonna be tough, when you don't have your starting quarterback, if you're Seattle. But Drew Lock, I think, gave you a good shot, and this is probably the best outcome you could have wished for with Drew Lock. Honestly, I think there are a lot of outcomes if you play this game over where you get absolutely destroyed.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say about this game.
I think they covered the spread. It was like 13.5. I think they did cover. Was it 28-16? I think it was. 20,
oh, yeah, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, but that was kind of to be expected that San Fran would just, pull away with a victory here. Toss up 4 tutties as they normally do. Mm-hmm. Just a typical week for the 49ers.
Yeah, just another day at the office for them.
Yeah.
Minnesota at Vegas.
Ooh.
I know, right?
Bro, what is this game?
Dude. Was watching this at the bar after the Bears game. And, yeah, was really wishing I didn't have to because it was so ugly. Like, what are you doing? If you're Vegas, you came off of a bye. I think Minnesota came off of a bye, too. What are you guys doing, dude? Like, this was an awful showing for both teams.
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs, the story's over. You're out of the NFL bio on Instagram now permanently. Nick Mullins has replaced you. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, he just got yoinked there in the second half.
Justin Jefferson goes down.
That was a hospital pass that he threw to Jefferson, bro.
Yeah,
I mean, that was ridiculous.
I know. Like, if you're Justin Jefferson, like, I don't even know if I try and catch that ball because of how dangerous it was. But, if you're Vegas, like, you totally gave this game away. This game was there for the taking at home. All you got to do is score more than 3 points. Like, it was ugly. And it's not even like they turn the ball over until the end of the game when they're really trying to press. I don't get it, dude. Like, I don't understand how you don't come into this game more prepared to at least move the ball down the field one time. And, yeah, I mean, if you're Alec Pierce or Antonio, I think it's Antonio Pierce, actually, the interim head coach for the Raiders, who probably is trying to get the head coaching job there permanently by putting on a good show for these few games. You're done.
Yeah, he's not getting
like
a good job of it.
No matter what you do the next few weeks, this was the nail in the coffin for sure. You can't have a 3-0 showing.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess the defense looked good, but ugh.
I mean, I guess they look good, but yeah, how do you not have a single score until within the last 2 minutes of the game?
I really wanted this to go to overtime, dude. I wanted to see a 0-0 tie. Finish. Yeah, that would have been fun.
That would have been electric. That really would be wild.
The fact that would have counted like for both of them, like in terms of like it would have been like a positive for both of them in the like stat in the win-loss column, I guess.
Yeah.
Without scoring any points, it's kind of nuts. It's kind of crazy. But yep, glad that we can forget about that game. We're both wrong on that one. But Denver at the Chargers. Justin Herbert goes down. Even before he went down, it wasn't looking great for them. Was kind of ugly at first. I think Herbert threw a pick, then Russell threw a pick, or vice versa. Now Easton Stick comes in from North Dakota State, and actually I'd say he played pretty good. Like, he threw for 179 yards. I think that's pretty good. But
yeah, was this his first career start?
It wasn't his start. Justin Herbert's start. It was
first time playing in a game.
I think he had played in a game like very
when
briefly.
Herbert probably hurt his hand before. Something like that.
Yeah. But like this was the most significant amount of time he's played. So I mean, I think he played pretty good, all things considered. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think if you're a Charger fan, like, you're done for the season. Goodbye. Herbert's probably gonna be out for the remainder of the season, even if he could come back.
He's not going to.
Why they would ever bring him back? Similar to Kyler Murray, I don't understand why they're playing him.
So when is Staley gone?
He'll be gone by the end of the season. I think at this point, unless something just egregious happens, they let him ride out because you have the excuse of the backup quarterback going on right now.
Yeah.
That actually, if you're Brandon Staley, like you're pretty happy because this, I think, bought you a few weeks, you know? Otherwise, if you had something go down where you had Justin Herbert play a really good game and lose, you were going to get fired. So now I think he has that built-in cushion, but you're still going to get fired at the end of the year.
I can agree with that.
Good pick for Denver for sure. But yeah, I mean, I definitely thought that Justin Herbert would play the whole game. And, you know, maybe if he did, they would have won. I think it would have been a better game for sure if he played. Then you have Buffalo at Kansas City, a game I thought was going to be much higher scoring. But I guess, you know, in years past it had been, so it was due for a little bit of a, you know, smaller one. And oh my goodness, did you see Mahomes rage?
Yes, dude, he was absolutely screaming at the officials, and he launched his helmet. And, dude, it was it was crazy.
The best part is like when he goes to shake Josh Allen's hand at that.
Yeah,
and Josh
I saw
is
that.
Good game. He's like, "Do you see that fucking call, dude? Like that was the worst thing in that moment there." Like I love it. It's like they're so chill that like the first thing he does is just like start complaining to his buddy about it.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen, you saw him looking.
He didn't really say a whole lot. He was just like, no. "Yeah, I know, sorry."
I mean, what are you supposed to say to that?
Well, we won, so it doesn't matter. Do better next time, Patty.
Yeah, for real. I mean, good for the Bills. They needed this one pretty badly.
They absolutely did. I really want to see Buffalo make the playoff appearance.
I think they do. I really.
Yeah.
With Miami's loss, it opens the door for the last game between those two to be, you know, deciding for the division almost at this point.
Yeah, what is Buffalo 2 games behind right now? So then it could be.
Oh, yes, you're right. They are 2 games.
So you need Miami to lose another, but they could because Tyreek might not be playing.
Miami has one of the hardest remaining schedules. They have Dallas and the Ravens on both holidays. Man, I'm so excited. I think Christmas Eve, Cowboys.
New Year's
I know
Eve.
for sure New Year's Eve in Baltimore because I was looking ahead, you know, doing my thing, and I was like, who could win the number 1 seed? I really thought Jacksonville would, but Trevor Lawrence goes down. They lose 2 games in a row. That's off the table. So it becomes Miami versus Baltimore. They had the same record going into this week, and they play each other on New Year's Eve. I thought that could be the battle for the number 1 seed. And now seems like if, you know, Baltimore doesn't screw it up, they pretty much have it locked down. I think if they win out, they get it because they're 1 game ahead of everyone at this point. But they also have a, you know, tougher remaining schedule with Jacksonville and Miami, and they already played the Bengals twice. They already played the Browns twice. I think they have 1 more at Pittsburgh. But besides that, I think they should be able to coast to that number 1 seed.
Yeah.
So what was I gonna say?
That Buffalo's gonna make it to the playoffs.
Yes, I think Buffalo makes it. I think they beat Miami again. I'm not liking Miami right now. We'll get to the game here in a second. But, yeah, I'm happy for Buffalo. I really did enjoy watching, not in a bad way. Like, I love seeing players care. Like, there was one time last season where Devontae Adams took his helmet off and just, like, absolutely slammed down the sidelines. Like, I love seeing that because you look at some of these players, like Jalen Hurts, he doesn't show a thing.
Stone-faced on the sideline.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Another one like Joe Burrow, I love him too, but he doesn't really get that way. There are a few players that just are the same no matter what. They don't start screaming like Tom Brady. I mean, he was the polar opposite. Like he would scream and yell and get mad and everything. I remember him like slamming tablets and whatnot. Speaking of slamming tablets, it wasn't only Patrick Mahomes that was
it was their coach who slammed one as well.
Chris Jones was the lineman. And then I really want to know that conversation. Like, just pretend you're talking to me. Or I'm talking to you.
I'm yelling at you.
I'm yelling at you. And you're like, you just take your tablet and just like spike it on the ground. Like, what could I have said to make you just destroy a tablet? Dude, like, what do you think I could have said? Like, what do you think Chris Jones said? Like, you dumb play calling son of a
something like that. Or, you know, maybe he just said that like after dinner you're not getting Buffalo Wild Wings like I promised. And you know,
dude, that's hilarious.
The coach got so angry.
I just want to know what he said to make him, because it seems so random. Like, what triggers you to just throw the tablet? Like, maybe you say something back, but like, oh man. And you got what's his face? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like showing his pantyhose. You know,
yeah, he absolutely shredded those pants.
Yeah,
bro.
I know. Oh my God, tough game for the Chiefs. But Kadarius Toney was offsides.
He was
blatantly. You know, maybe the ref should have, you know, because they are constructive at times. You know,
they'll give him a little tip.
Yeah, but like.
Back. It was the right call, though. It was the right call.
I mean, I heard, though, all right, so there's been a lot of stats going around. Like, usually, like Patrick Mahomes said, he's never had offensive offsides called. And in years past, very true. Like, it's very, very, very rarely called. This year, there's been like 11 of those called. Mm-hmm. However, 8 of them have been on a QB sneak tush-push type of play.
Ooh.
So, whatever, like, that play is just more... leans itself more toward that penalty.
Right.
Those other 3, you know, this one included, were other sorts of plays. However, I heard a really good comparison. It's like if you're like talking like in terms of like a speed limit type of thing, you're going like 73 miles an hour in a 70.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably okay. But if you go 100 in a 70, you're done. You know. And in terms of offsides by inches and whatnot, like. Who was it? Kadarius
Toney, yeah.
Like, he was 100 miles an hour. Like, he was that much offsides. Like, it wasn't like a
I mean, his foot was over the blue line, clearly.
I mean, it wasn't by, like, a couple centimeters. Like, it was by, like, a few inches. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was the right call, but it was a cool play.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, Travis getting so saucy with that slide pitch.
He's done that before.
Yeah, that was a very nice play. Props to him. Sorry it didn't count, Travis, but
yeah,
good stuff. Keep up that kind of excitement for future games, especially when your lady's watching.
Yeah, dude, I bet that's one that, you know, you could definitely pitch to Taylor Swift as, you know, you're like the hero and like,
right.
you know, you're
worthy
the victim.
Of some action.
You're the victim now because of your receiver's dumbassery.
Right. Yeah.
Philadelphia at Dallas, Sunday Night Football. Thought it was going to be a better game, but yeah, I mean, Philly just looks tired and beat up over this stretch, and Dallas just absolutely pounded them. And yeah, I mean, we kind of called this one. I think a lot of people did. Honestly, surprisingly, it seemed like the whole nation thought Dallas was going to win.
Yeah.
And so that felt like a little worrisome. Like, I think everyone like on the football broadcast picked Dallas, and it's like, that's honestly surprising to me, considering Philadelphia has the best record or whatever, and they are, you know, the defending NFC champions and all that, and yet everyone's picking against you these last 2 games, but they do end up losing them. They just have not looked good defensively.
I mean, Dallas is just like unbeatable at home. They're the only team that has not lost yet this year at home.
I know, yeah.
After
home,
Miami lost it.
They're a whole nother animal, you know, and I remember like watching this game and seeing them wheel out the kicker for that 60-yarder. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like,
it's the Notre Dame guy, bro. He has not missed a single.
Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah. I think we talked about this maybe, but like he was a software engineer for a couple of years, and then his girlfriend said like they were watching a football game together, and
I thought he was a soccer player.
He was a soccer player, but he was also like that's what he played at Notre Dame. But when he graduated, he became a software engineer, and he did that for maybe like 2 years. And then him and his girlfriend were just watching like a football game, and she was like, "You could do that.
You could do that."
Yeah, and so he did, which is wild.
That's crazy because now he's ended up, you know, one of the best kickers in the league. He's actually 100%.
Yeah, he's not missed a single field goal. However, he has missed, I think it's 3 extra points. But still, not missing a single field goal is nuts.
If you're making field goals of 58-plus yards, if you miss a couple extra points, no one's going to care.
So what did he hit yesterday? He hit a 60, a 58, and then like a 54 or something like that. He had 3
if you had him in fantasy, and if you're in a good league with a good commissioner like me, where I set the kicker points by yardage and not categorized by 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and 50 plus, you were in good shape because you got 60 or you got 6 points and then 5.8 and then 5.4. Whereas in some of my leagues, if anything 50 or more, it's just 5 points. And it kills me because a 50-yarder is so much different from a 60-yarder.
Agreed.
And they should be rewarded for that.
I agree.
So, yes, all right. Yeah, Dallas is now in the lead for the division. Although I need to look into this more. I'm not fully confident. I'm not really sure how they are, though, because Philly won first, Dallas won next. So it's tied head-to-head. You go to the conference. They have the same record. So you go to the conference record. And I thought Philly had a slightly better. Like, I think it was 6-2 versus 7-3 now. Maybe it's different. Like, I'm sure it's right. I'm sure Dallas is properly in first place. But when I was looking at it before, I was a little confused. But anyways, moving on to Monday night, Green Bay at the Giants, dude. I just want to say, like, I don't mean to rub it in or anything, but you were dogging on me for my pick last week.
I absolutely hated this pick. I just don't understand where this comes from. How did the Giants pull off a win against Green Bay, who beat Kansas City and the Lions? Like,
dude, I'm telling you, they were due for that loss. They were feeling good, swinging their dicks around. Like, yeah, we just beat two of the best teams in the league.
But not to the Giants, bro.
The Giants aren't half bad with Tommy DeVito, man. Like, they've won now 3 games in a row. The defensive performance the last 3+ weeks has been phenomenal from them. They've been playing really good football. The offense has been clicking. I mean, Saquon's been really good now that he's fully healthy again. He obviously fumbled. If he doesn't fumble, this game really isn't even close. There were a lot of instances in this game that should have made it less and less close. I think the Giants missed a field goal. I mean, I think Green Bay did as well. But honestly, it shouldn't even have been this close because Green Bay made a lot of mistakes, and like I predicted in the pod last week, Jordan Love was due for a regression type of game, and that's exactly what he had. I think he had a fumble and a pick. I think he only threw for like 1 third down or something like that. It was not great. I think maybe 2 third downs with the touchdown included there. But yeah, oh man, it felt good watching the Giants go down the field there at the end because, certainly I was nervous, when Green Bay scored that touchdown because I was like, wow, I mean, the Giants actually have a chance to prove me right. And they blow it there at the end, but nope. Tommy DeVito comes in and just easy peasy, just 4 plays in the field goal territory.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give you props for this pick. It was absolutely cerebral, bro, that you picked the Giants. I did not foresee that at all, and this was really the difference in who won our week here because I finished 7-8, you finished 8-7, and
all the other ones kind of came down to like the bigger upsets, I guess. Mean, we thought that Indianapolis would win. We thought that Houston was going to win.
Right.
Miami here next. Speaking of which, I remember when we were talking about the pod, I was like, I'm taking the upset for the Giants, but I'm certainly not taking it for this game. But wow, I mean, scoring they scored 2 touchdowns in the last 3 minutes of the game to upset Miami.
And I think I saw a stat during the game. It said no team in the last 700 and something games has come back from 2 touchdowns in the last 3 minutes, being down by 2 touchdowns. That's a crazy
it's tough
stat.
to do. I mean, rookie quarterback, not a great offensive, team. Miami's defense looked god-awful. They looked bad, dude. I mean, you got a pick 6 in this game, right? So Will Levis throws a pick 6. Will Levis also fumbled, I believe. Now, Tua did fumble on the goal line, but then after that was when the pick 6 happened, so he kind of got that washed away.
Yeah.
Miami had a plethora of opportunities to put this game away, and they couldn't get it done. It was honestly, I thought, I picked Tennessee to cover, and looking how this game was going, Miami, was up by 2 scores, so I thought they almost wouldn't cover, even though it was looking like they would the entire game. You're just waiting for Miami to pull away, and they never did, really. I mean, for a brief second, I guess, but Tennessee just went right down the field easily in both of those last 2 drives. And honestly, Miami's offense without Tyreek fully healthy is not that good either. I mean, at the end there, I know you didn't have any timeouts, but you had a minute plus, a minute and a half, minute and 40, and you can't even get into field goal range. You can't even convert a 4th and 2 or 3 and 2, 3rd and 2. I thought it was a horrible effort from Miami. Miami's looking a little rough. Like we kind of talked about, they have a really hard remaining schedule with Buffalo, the Ravens, the Cowboys. So, they have the Jets this week, which, maybe that game is not, a walk in the park either. Yeah. So,
I think that if Tyreek was 100%, they make it into field goal range on that last drive.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, so that's the thing though. They're just super Tyreek dependent.
I agree with that.
I think there's actually a stat. If Tyreek has 100 or more yards, they're 8-0. When he doesn't have 100 or more yards, they're 1-4.
That's ridiculous.
So I mean, it's just a little worrisome. Tua, man, you gotta play better.
Yeah. And
their defense has to play better.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, kind of a crazy upset there. Vegas was not even close on that one, having a 14-point spread. But that was one of my favorite bets of the whole week. I really love Tennessee to cover that one, but it should have just taken them on the money line.
Yeah.
Good Monday night overall.
Yeah, we did have some nice close games there, both of them being little 1-point games there. But yeah, moving on to my start and sits for the week, bro. I don't even want to talk about this one. My entire document is just riddled with
remove this segment
red
from the pod.
Yeah, this is just bad, bro. I mean, we thought that Gabe Davis owned the Chiefs, and evidently,
he has.
I mean, yeah, he has historically, but I pick him for the pod, and he decides that he doesn't even want to catch a single ball.
He decides he's just like, I'm just a block today, guys.
Yeah, he's just gonna run some cardio up and down the field. So he's
get a good workout in.
Yeah, he's not doing anything.
Get a little handsy with some of the corners,
Yeah, or maybe even some cheerleaders. At least do something productive. Yeah. So yeah, Gabe doesn't even have a single catch. So I don't know what you want to do about that. Cole Kmet, he did actually So I'm going to say this one was an okay pick. No touchdowns. I think I said he was going to have 2 touchdowns. He did have a couple nice big yardage grabs.
And he looked great. I mean, he's a big dude.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 5 catches for 60 yards or so.
It was around 11 points. He outscored Dallas Goedert.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was solid. I'll take it. But could have been better. Could have had a touchdown or so.
Could have been.
And then I said to sit Breece Hall. I thought that Houston defense was just going to come in clutch this week, and they were going to actually, perform well. Because, I mean, we've talked about Houston has a solid defense, and evidently Breece just lit them up. Yeah. He dropped 20-some points. So
it was a big one.
Yeah, not much else I can say about that.
Not ideal, and not ideal for me either in the tight end department. Just thought Dallas Goedert would have a little bit of a bigger week coming back. He still had a few catches and all that, but nothing crazy. And I really thought Dalton Kincaid would have a breakout game here, another one, that is. But there just wasn't as much offense in the Bills-Chiefs game as I thought there would be, and as there has been historically in these matchups. So that's where the cookie crumbled. Sitting Calvin Ridley, I think, was a decent play. I mean, he had 9 points in the PPR league, which isn't fantastic for a receiver. I think he was wide receiver 57. So, yeah, I kind of like that, but depends on what kind of league you are in with how many people.
Yep.
Moving on to the best bets. What you got?
Yeah, so we had Buffalo Moneyline. Love that pick this week, and they did come through for me. However, I took Houston at the Jets under 35.5, and of course, this one was right on the hook. The game finishes with a total of 36, and so I do not hit this bet. I mean, those ones right on the hook like that are so tough. I remember saying, though, that I thought this was going to be a 24-3 with victory for Houston, and obviously that was
opposite.
Yeah, it was the exact opposite.
Crazy.
But yeah, I don't know. You had a solid week with your best bets, though. I see a lot of green over there, big guy.
Yeah, I felt really good. I think this was my best week in terms of NFL picks ever. New England +6. Bam, easy. They won outright. New York Jets +6.5. Easy. They won outright. Tennessee +14. Easy money. Bam, they won outright. Giants +6.5. Easy money. They went outright. Buffalo +2.5. Obviously, that went down to 1, but still, all 5 of those, you didn't even need the points. They all won outright, all of which, I mean, the average underdog there is 7 points. I mean, there's a 14 in there, 3 of them in the 6 territory, 1 at 2.5. That's nuts.
That's definitely
average underdog between all of those is 7 to 8 points. That's
and they were all
crazy.
Covering.
Yeah, didn't even need the points. Vegas, of course, +3. Nice little push there. Kind of crazy that you can, almost cover a 3-point spread, but give up 3 points and lose. Just nuts. Detroit at Chicago, another nice little push for me. This one went up to 43, so you would have lost. But if you got early, it would have been a push. Really kind of wild that this one didn't go over. You would have thought Detroit would have put up some more points because Chicago, definitely, put up their end of the bargain. And the Jacksonville-Cleveland game just did not go how I was expecting at all. Now, obviously, going into this game, we thought C.J. Beathard was going to play. So that played a little bit of a role, I'd say, but I just was not expecting it to be such an offensively led game. I mean, I think, Cleveland scored more than 34.5 points themselves. So kind of nuts there. And then the sole college football game of the week in terms of FBS, Army against Navy, the annual Army-Navy game, Army -2.5. So I'm glad that I went 1 for 1 there in terms of college football.
I did see a nice stat that said, so in the last 15 years, so excluding this year, the Army-Navy game went under the total every single year for 15 straight years, except for last year was the first year that it did not happen.
Right.
But this year it was set at, I think it was 28 and a half.
Went over.
No,
right?
it went under again.
It was under?
Yeah, what was the score? Was it 16-10? I think
16-9. No, 17-9. I think.
Okay, yeah. Well, the over/under was 28 and a half when I looked, so maybe it did move down, but at least some people.
I saw it at 27 and a half.
Okay,
but I think, I guess that still would have. Yeah, it still would have hit the under. But yeah, I mean, these teams just suck because they don't throw the ball at all. Although I will say,
17-11. Wow, so
that's right.
Yeah, the
that's
under
right.
28 and a half was right on the hook.
I was gonna say I could have sworn that the over hit for something, but. Yeah, because they got that safety at the end. That's right. I remember now. Yeah. They got that safety at the end, which made it go over for, depends on where you got the line at. But, yeah, I mean, I've been saying, ever since Notre Dame blew out Navy at the beginning of the season, if these teams want to have long-term success or become relevant again, and they used to be super, 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 super relevant, you got to learn to throw the ball more. I think it has to be. I couldn't find the stat on this, but Navy had, 24 pass attempts or something in this game, and I have never ever seen Navy had that many pass attempts. I mean, it's rare that they even go over 10 pass attempts. I mean, Army even had a bunch. They had 14, even though I think 11 of those were in the first half. These teams don't throw the ball. That's just their historic styles, triple option, whatever, run the ball. But I mean, they both were 5 and 6 coming into this game, which I guess that's honestly impressive, all things considered. But the competition they play, those wins that they did have, were not very impressive. Although I think Army did beat Air Force, which I'd say is pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just think that these teams need to modernize a little bit if they want to be successful. But anyways. Moving on to Week 15 for the NFL. We are done with buys, correct?
Correct. Buys are over, and we have 3 Saturday games this week. Dude. So maybe you can make a little parlay for the Saturday games, and I will do one for the Thursday game. Even though the Thursday, I guess you probably do still have college bowl games.
Yeah, the bowl games are starting, but it's such a crapshoot with the bowl games because of all the opt-outs, and I'd really have to dive into every team's individual opt-outs. So I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I still do love my college football, so I might try something. But
the Thursday night game could even be another hard one to make a parlay for, just because of the way these teams have been playing, bro.
Honestly, it'd be tough to make a parlay. I think Josh Jacobs is banged up. I'm gonna take Vegas in this one, just because their defense is actually pretty good this year and going against Easton Stick.
Yeah, I'm going to take Vegas as well. I originally did have the Chargers, but I remembered that Herbert was out, and I was like, I can't roll with Easton Stick. I don't think he's going to be nearly as good as Jake Browning has been or anything like that. Yeah. So, we're going to roll with Vegas. I think after getting embarrassed in their 0-point performance against the Vikings last week, they can put up at least some more points this week.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do like the under in this one. Minnesota at Cincinnati. I'm definitely taking Cincinnati. Minnesota is trending down, and surprisingly,
Cincinnati's trending up.
Somehow, some way, with Jake Browning, they are trending up. I mean, this is going to be Nick Mullins' likely first start since 2020 or whatever for the 2021 rather for the Niners. And yeah, he's totally solid. He's totally fine. But I think his first start at Minnesota or for Minnesota is going to be a little tough, and Justin Jefferson's questionable to play.
Yeah, I mean, they're losing Josh Dobbs, who, led their offense for the past few weeks. They've just got too many quarterback problems there. It's their 4th different starting QB this season.
It is.
So, I don't know. That's just concerning for their entire offense. But I like the way that Cincinnati's been playing, so I'm rolling with them too.
Yeah, you have to, especially a dome team traveling to the outdoors in the cold. Pittsburgh at Indianapolis. I really, really would love to see Indianapolis win. You guys know I'm a big Gardner Minshew fan. He's one of my favorite players, but I just don't see Pittsburgh dropping 3 in a row to mediocre teams. I really thought they'd bounce back after the Cardinals loss, but if not, they're definitely going to bounce back after this New England loss. I don't really care who's at the starting quarterback. I think whether it be Trubisky or Pickett, I am going to take Pittsburgh to win this one. I just think they're too well coached. They had a few extra days of rest. I think they do win this game, even though it's on the road.
Yeah, both teams vying for that playoff spot still.
I mean, they're tied 6 and 7 seeds right now, so this is super important for them.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think this will be a really good game. Not going to be a raccoon game. I could see this game coming down to a last-minute field goal or something like that. I am going to take the Colts here, but I like the Pittsburgh pick. I could certainly see this going either way.
Yeah, I'm mad at the Colts kicking right now. They didn't attempt a single. Well, Matt Gay missed the first extra point, so then at the second touchdown they went for 2, and then they never, did anything after that. So my kicker in multiple leagues put up a nice round goose egg. Yeah, it was ugly. Denver at Detroit, a really good matchup here. A lot of people, are off of Detroit and picking Denver, including you, it looks like. But I'm going to stick with Detroit. I think they have a bounce back week. It's at home for them. They're always stronger at home. They're actually pretty good at home. I think I know they lost at home to the Packers, but all their other losses have been on the road, at Seattle, at Baltimore, at Chicago. So I like them here, even though Denver's, been playing really well and trending up. I mean, it should be a good game regardless.
Yeah, I think this will be a solid one for sure. Still like the Detroit pick. I am going to roll with Denver. I just like to ride the teams that are hot, kind of that trending up sort of mentality. And I feel like Detroit has been, slightly trending down with their kind of poor performance.
Yeah.
At least closing out games. They hardly closed out that one in New Orleans. They didn't close out against the Bears. I mean, they just lost outright. I'm just a little bit worried about Detroit here. They lost to Green Bay. So, again, they're going to make the playoffs, like you said. So, I mean, they're going to be fine. But I think that Denver is going to want to keep their playoff hopes alive by getting a victory this week.
For sure. I'm looking forward to that one. The Giants at the Saints here. I am going to take the Saints. I think they've kind of found the rhythm. They're at home again here. The Giants coming off of that big Monday night win. I think they kind of come back down to earth a little bit here. I could definitely see them winning. I really like how they're playing. And like I said, I'm happy that they proved me right. I'm kind of becoming a fan of them. I love the Giants helmets that they had on Monday night. I thought those looked really good. Actually, yeah, those are like the retro ones. I really like those.
Yeah.
Maybe if they play in those again, I'll take them. But I'm going to take New Orleans here, even with a banged-up Derek Carr.
I'm a little surprised, dude. You were so hot on the Giants last week, and I would take, would you take Green Bay or New Orleans were they to face each other?
I'd take Green Bay, but it's all situations, circumstantial.
I guess that's fair.
Coming off those big wins against the Lions and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Going on the road to the Giants, who are coming off of a bye. I love how well coached they are. That is the reason why I picked them last week. All bets are off now. It's a new week, new circumstances. So that is why I'm a little down on them this week. I don't see them winning 4 games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. I honestly just like Denver, I just kind of want to ride who's hot. And I mean, they've been doing well.
Hot.
But I hate the Giants, dude. I don't like their team at all. I think that they're bad. I mean, I really don't trust Tommy DeVito yet. It's kind of more just like a pick based off of your confidence in them last week is why I'm choosing them this week.
I mean, remember what we said last week. Tommy DeVito doesn't make his food. He doesn't have to do his laundry. He doesn't have to make his bed. All he has to do is just worry about football.
Yeah.
And, you look at him. I can't believe how much he ran for last night. He ran for 71 yards.
Yeah.
And he only had 4 incompletions. And, I mean, he's the man. I really like 7 touchdowns, 1 interception over the last few games here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I expect him to play decently, but the Saints defense is a little ferocious for him.
Right.
Chicago at Cleveland. I think this could be a good game. I almost want to take Chicago. I feel like, again, if you're talking about teams that are hot right now, they are hot. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. Their defense has been playing fantastic. They've been one of the best defenses in the league the last few weeks. But I think going on the road to Cleveland here, the weather's not a factor at all because both teams are used to it. It's going to be cold. I think it's going to be no precipitation, though, but at the end of the day, their defense still isn't great, and Cleveland's defense is so good that it'll give them the opportunities to, win the game here. I do think that this is going to be a little bit of a grudge match, and Cleveland could struggle a little bit to stop Chicago. Justin Fields moving on the run, but again, they're used to that. They've played Lamar Jackson before, so I like Cleveland here.
Yeah, I actually have Cleveland here too. I think I said earlier in the pod I was going to take Chicago.
Yeah.
So maybe I had Chicago originally and changed it, I think. I think it was after I read that you were using Justin Fields as your corner QB.
Yeah.
I knew that
you got to take it off.
You have to
take the Browns
now. Take Cleveland because
that
obviously
corner QB is just sentenced to the
the doghouse, basically.
Yeah, the shadow zone.
Yeah, he's in the shadow zone. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields is not going to get a victory here if he's in the corner. But in all seriousness, I don't think that Matt Eberflus is going to be able to pull off a 3-game win streak. Like, I mean, I mentioned earlier, this is the first time in his 2 years as a coach that he's even won two games. Yeah. 2 games back-to-back.
Yeah.
So 3 would be absolutely unprecedented.
Yeah, I mean, to think that Chicago could be 6-8 and have the chance to actually win them the next couple of weeks because they got the Cardinals and the Falcons.
Ooh.
Honestly, if any team could win out and be sneaky, it is the Bears because of how easy their schedule is. And then the final game is Green Bay, which, in their divisional rivalry, Green Bay won once. I don't really see, I don't know. It could be tough in this division to sweep anybody. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be a homer here. I don't think that'll happen in the slightest, but these games are winnable for the Bears. I think this is the least of the 4 that are winnable, though.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta at Carolina. Carolina looks like crap. Now, granted, not fully convinced that they're going to go 1-16 though. So one of these games they are bound to win, I think, and this one's at home. Obviously it's against Desmond Ridder. It's such a wild card, but I'm gonna still take Atlanta here. I just don't see them, messing this up. They kind of need this game now that they, have fallen back in the division as well.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to add to this one. I'm going to take Atlanta as well. I mean, Carolina's just looking like garbage. Feel bad for Bryce Young, such a talented young guy. I feel bad for him.
I mean, yeah, I do too. I think part of the blame has to go on to him. Like, he could be playing better. We saw Andy Dalton come in for the Panthers against the Seahawks and throw for like 300 yards and play really well with the same exact roster and the same exact coaching staff plus Frank Wright. So, I mean, honestly, I want to see Andy Dalton come back because I think he would do better. I honestly don't think Bryce Young's that good.
I mean, he was fantastic in college at least, but
that's because he was on Bama and everything is like easy. It's like living in Candyland when you're playing for Bama. You're playing with NFL guys all around you.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're Josh Allen, you're playing at Wyoming. Most of your guys are not going to make it to the NFL. So,
right.
You're trying to make stuff work and you're still being impressive with much less and worse talent around you. So, to me, that's why I think Caleb Williams, Drake May are going to be better than quarterbacks like, what's a good example? Like Jalen Milroe, who's the Bama quarterback currently, or like Carson Beck, people like that. Jaden Daniels maybe a little bit as well. Anyways, we need to get off that. Moving right along here to the Tampa Bay at Green Bay, the Bay Battle. Although the wrong kind of bay if you're Tampa, you're going up to the tundra. Going to be super cold, and yeah, they're certainly not used to that. Oh man, this is the hardest game for me to pick, to be honest. It's definitely the hardest game for me to pick. I'm going to just try and be different and take Tampa Bay. I think it's a dumb pick, honestly, but fading Green Bay worked out for me last week, so we're going to try it again here. I just think maybe Tampa Bay's found a little bit of rhythm, and Green Bay has always struggled against the run. We saw that last night or the other night against Saquon, and we know that Rachaad White's kind of coming alive. So, you know what? I think it's kind of my silliest pick of the week, but I'm going to roll with it.
I mean, I don't think it's that silly. Tampa's been hot, and, I guess they haven't been that hot, but they did just win last week. And
they're going to cool off somewhere in there when they get up to Green Bay.
Yeah,
it's going to be like 25 degrees.
Probably, yeah. But I do feel like, their team can certainly, it's not an egregious pick to take Tampa over Green Bay.
So it's less egregious than taking the Giants over Green Bay?
Oh, dude, yeah. Absolutely not, yeah.
But you're going to take the Giants.
I am going to say Green Bay.
Gotcha.
Or wait, sorry, say that again.
I said Giants.
Yeah.
You're going to take
the
Packers.
I'm taking the Packers here. But, I mean, Tampa's still, they're still battling for that playoff spot. They might have the lead right now, but, they're still in, kind of a must-win situation every week.
New Orleans and Atlanta both have very winnable games this week. So if they lose and those or one of them win, then they're immediately out of that first place spot.
Yeah, so, I mean, Tampa's not a bad pick here, but I'm going to roll with Green Bay just because I feel like they lost that tough one to the Giants this past week, and they want a win here, bro. They need to get this win.
They do. I just really don't want to see them in the playoffs. So I mean, this one would not be great for the Rams.
Right.
Jets at Miami. I like Miami to bounce back here, but I think the Jets could cover this one. In Miami, it's just another game that we just saw a couple weeks ago on Black Friday. So I really don't care about these divisional games that they stack within a 3-week span. We've seen now, Kansas
Yeah,
City,
they're
Denver,
strange.
I think
San Fran,
Washington,
Seattle.
Philly. Yeah, so many of them have been like so tightly packed. The Giants, Commanders, like within 3-week spans. And so it just kind of gets a little stale to me. But Miami it is.
Yeah, we're definitely rolling Miami. I mean, they absolutely pounded the Jets on Black Friday. I expect they'll do something kind of similar, but I mean, maybe the Jets can cover the spread, like you said.
Yeah,
I know it's
maybe
probably
Zach
a large
Wilson
one.
can string together 2 good starts.
I think that if Tyreek plays, Miami runs away with this one. But if Tyreek is not in, I could see the Jets covering the spread.
Oh, for sure. Super Tyreek dependent.
Yeah.
Kansas City at New England. Definitely taking Kansas City here, despite New England coming off a win, despite New England being at home, despite New England having a few extra days of rest. This is, the type of situation where Kansas City is, visibly angry and are going to bounce back in a huge way. Although I did kind of want to take New England to cover. I'm not sure. I don't think I put that in my best bets, but it was kind of like an inkling. Kind of felt like a backdoor cover to me, like New England kind of scores on a late possession, but yeah, definitely Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm rolling Kansas City too. Think they should get a win here. I cannot imagine them losing to New England. I mean, that would be really, really dangerous for them.
Dude, the fact that Denver's only a game back
is
from
nuts.
them, it's crazy because Denver could have easily won some of those earlier games against the Commanders or against the Raiders. And if they just won 2 of those games, even if they just won 1 of those games, I think that they would lead in the division because they split with Kansas City. And I think they would have the better conference record because Kansas City lost to... Actually, no, they probably wouldn't because Kansas City's losses are kind of against NFC teams. Lions, Eagles. Anyways, we got San Fran. Nope. Houston at Tennessee. I'm kind of skippy today. This one has been completely changed by C.J. Stroud's injury, so I'm going to take Tennessee here, even though I still don't feel great about it. But Tennessee is just super well coached, so when they have an advantage, they tend to exploit it and use it. They do have a lot of experience playing against Davis Mills, and likewise, though, I mean, Davis Mills had one of his best career games against Tennessee last year or the year before. So, yeah, we'll see how this one goes, but I will take Will Levis and the Titans.
Yeah, I think this is like maybe the first week since maybe week 2 or week 3. So I picked Houston like 13 straight weeks or something like that, which is absolutely crazy to me. But yeah, the time has come for me to swap my pick, and you'd think it'd come against a team like Kansas City or like Buffalo or I don't know, someone elite like Dallas, but it's coming against the Bozo Titans. But I understand that the Titans are coming off a big win, and Houston has now lost Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and C.J. Stroud. Don't love their lineup right now. Dameon Pierce is just looking like garbage. Devin Singletary took over that backfield entirely. Houston doesn't seem like they have a whole lot going for them this week, so I'm going to roll Tennessee.
It's like they reverted back to last year's Texans in a week by losing all their best players that they just acquired. But it is funny that you mentioned against Dallas or against the Chiefs because those are the 2 games last year that they almost won.
Yeah.
I think they took both to overtime or down to the 4th quarter. It was so nuts in those games. Anyways, San Fran at Arizona. Definitely taking San Fran despite Arizona coming off of a bye. They now have Kyler Murray. Doesn't really matter. It's still one of the worst rosters in the league, even though they're at home. Although I do kind of like them to cover in this one. I am going to take the Niners.
Yeah, this is another one that we saw just a couple weeks ago, right? Maybe it was more than a couple weeks ago.
While. This was like week 4 or 5.
I remember you picked the Cardinals in the spread on that one as well, right?
Yeah, I don't think they did. It was close.
14.5.
Yeah, I don't think it was pretty close, but I don't think they covered that one actually.
Yeah, that was a giga spread. But yeah, I'm going to take San Fran here too. They're still looking unstoppable when their entire team is healthy, and they are. So we're going to roll San Fran.
Right. Washington at the Rams. You have no idea how badly I want to take the Commanders here for multiple reasons. They're coming off of a bye. The Rams have been traveling all over the yard. They just went to Baltimore. They have to come all the way back home. I mean, whether you want to frame that as they have to come back home or they get to come back home, either way, I think they're definitely a little bit more battle tested, a little bit more tired than Washington right now because, like I said, they have that bye. This is bound to be a high-scoring affair just based on, both defenses are really not that good and both offenses are pretty solid. I must still stick with the Rams just because I love, the experience. They're so well coached and Matt Stafford's been playing out of his gourd lately. But if I had to flip one of these games, it would be this one in terms of an upset just because I think Ron Rivera really needs this one. I think, the Commanders kind of need this one in general. The fact that they've now fallen behind the Giants is pretty laughable.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that the Rams are in more of a dire situation to get these wins here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that Washington, they're not making the playoffs, so, I wouldn't expect them to care too much about getting a win.
That's totally fair, but I think Ron Rivera is another one of those coaches that's going to get the axe. But I think no matter what, even if he does win this game, he's still going to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas at Buffalo. So Dallas has had their fun, but now they have to travel to another cold weather environment. We know that they're a different team on the road, coming off of a humongous win. I love Buffalo in this game. Buffalo almost lost that game against Kansas City, so I think they still feel motivated to kind of button down the hatches and, make sure everything is in tip-top shape for a humongous, game of the week right here. So I'm going to take the Bills.
Yeah, I'm also taking Buffalo. This is another one that they're in a dire situation. Buffalo has to get this win if they want to, make the playoffs, I think. And they're facing, other than San Fran, the team that looks to be like the best in the league right now. And, if Dallas were at home, I don't know that I could take Buffalo, but Dallas is traveling from their warm little stadium to snowy, cold Buffalo. And Buffalo likes to take care of business when they're at home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so for sure, even though they lost to Philly at home. Last time these two played was on Thanksgiving, and the Bills won it. That was even before Josh Allen was who he is now. I think that was in 2020. They made the playoffs as a wild card at 10-6. Almost beat the Texans that year. Blew a lead. Lost to the Texans. A little fun fact for you right there. But anyways, moving on to Sunday Night Football. Baltimore at Jacksonville. Baltimore coming off of an emotional overtime victory. Jacksonville coming off of a loss. Trevor Lawrence definitely going to play, if he played this past week, but still recovering. I do like the Jaguars here at home coming off of that loss, whereas Baltimore coming off of that emotional win. Similar to, I really am circumstantial when I look at a lot of these games, and it just feels like Baltimore is due for a loss. Jacksonville is due for a win here, and Jacksonville has the advantage, I think. They want to throw the ball, and Baltimore's secondary is not very good. I love Zay Jones in this game to have a big one. And, I mean, it's definitely going to be a good game. Totally could see Baltimore winning, but I just think that they're due for a loss, and Jacksonville should be able to take advantage.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I'm going to take Baltimore, though. I thought that Lamar played exceptionally well last week. I know you kind of predicted that he was going to play exceptionally well, and I don't know, this just feels like Baltimore should still win this game if Trevor is dealing with any sort of injury at all.
Yeah, I mean, if he throws 3 interceptions, it certainly won't be as close as it ended up being against the Browns.
Yeah.
But, if we think back to last year, these two did play. Baltimore blew like a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter or something crazy like that. So maybe there's a little bit of a revenge factor there. But, on the flip side of that, maybe Jacksonville just kind of has Baltimore's number.
That's possible.
Philadelphia at Seattle for Monday Night Football. Philadelphia, of course, coming off of back-to-back losses. Seattle coming off of, so they had that bad loss against San Fran.
And then the Cowboys, right?
Right, yeah, the Thursday night one against the Cowboys, and then before that, the Thanksgiving one against the Niners. So I think before that, against the Rams, the 1-point loss or whatever. And so I think, I like Philadelphia. Didn't you have Seattle originally?
I did have Seattle originally. Because
I thought that was a free win for me.
Yeah.
You changed it.
I did change it, yeah. I mean, after watching, the highlight reel a second time, I realized that Seattle is struggling, although DK has been looking fantastic. But
is Geno going to play?
I don't know.
It's kind of like a sneaky little surprise hocus pocus injury that he had. Like I just saw it pop on my phone like 5 minutes before the game. They had like a groin injury or whatever.
Yeah, but it just feels to me like, after thinking about it, there's no way Philly is dropping 3 in a row.
Exactly. That's exactly
happen.
what I'm saying. And Seattle is trending down. Whereas, I think Philly will be totally fine, even though their defense is pretty bad. I think this could be a high-scoring affair, especially if Geno plays.
Right.
Moving on to our Week 15 start and sits, my least favorite segment of the entire pod. But I really, really do like Courtland Sutton this week.
I love that, dude. He's always good for one touchdown.
I know.
Consistent, and it's always like a crazy touchdown.
It is, yeah, highlight reel type of play.
Yeah.
I just really like him because Detroit's defense has not been very good lately, and I think Denver's going to be able to exploit that a little bit here, even though I do like the Lions to win. I also like Drake London to have another big game. He obviously had a big game against Tampa. I think he has another pretty good game against the Panthers, who are one of the worst defenses in the league right now. I would like to sit Zach Moss going up against the Pittsburgh defense. He has not been great the last 2 weeks in the starting role. I'm not sure. I don't think, Taylor is still out for one more week. So he is still the starting back, but I think I would sit him.
Yeah, I think those are good picks. I'm going to start Kenneth Walker this week. He's been battling an injury lately. He was out with an oblique. 2 prior weeks, he did play this past week against San Fran, but he hardly did anything. I think he maybe finished with like 7 points or something like that. I know Zach Charbonnet got his fair share of carries in there, but I think that, like you mentioned, this Philadelphia Seahawks game, I think is going to be pretty high scoring, and I think that Kenneth finds the end zone at least once in this game. So I think he's due for a good game. And the Eagles defense, or the Eagles, have just been facing such tough matchups lately. I feel like they're just kind of a little bit beat up. Kenneth is going to get some good points against them.
I'm a little worried, though, because he's been splitting so much with Charbonnet.
Yeah.
A little concerned about that.
He has. I think that was like partly because of the injury, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, though. Like, don't know. I'd like to just see a little bit more out of him before I could, fully put him back in the guillotine league starting spot. That's the high stakes are really nervous, nerve-wracking there. But
I'm also going to start Sam Howell this week, dude. I really, really like this Sam Howell pick. I think that this Rams or the Washington at Rams game would be another one that's super high scoring, dude. Honestly, kind of similar to the Rams-Baltimore game we had this past week. I could see it being like a 33-30 kind of finish here. I don't know. I would like to see Sam Howell really have a good game, but the Rams to still get their win.
Yeah, I love that for sure. I mean, Sam Howell has been within the top 10 QBs for fantasy since week 8. QB 1, 10, 4, 10, 10, and 9. And before that, it was 5, 8, 23, the 3 weeks before that. He's just so incredibly consistent. The last 2 weeks, he's had 0 passing touchdowns in both games, but he had 3 total rushing touchdowns and a ton of yards in that Dallas game. So I think at the end of the day, the law of averages kicks in. He goes back to having some more passing touchdowns. But, I mean, I certainly like the pick. And, very tempting, honestly, for me to start him in one of my leagues just because I think, there's a lot of scoring going to be happening in this game.
Yeah. And then finally, we're going to sit Khalil Herbert and Deonta Foreman. So this Bears backfield's kind of a little bit of a committee. And don't really love either of them against this tough Cleveland defense. Cleveland just kind of shuts people down. And especially with the timeshare going on, it doesn't seem like either of these guys would be a great start this week.
Totally agree with that because they also have Roschon Johnson as well.
Yes, correct.
Moving on to Week 15 best bets, we're going to see if I can have some more success in the NFL front. I like a lot of dogs. Again, Arizona plus 13.5. It just seems like a lot coming off of a bye with Kyler Murray. Like I said, I like Jacksonville to win outright, so I'll take the 3.5 there. I'll take Washington the 6.5. Tempted to take him outright, but going to refrain on that. The Giants at New Orleans, I like it over 37. I just think both teams put up a decent amount of points. New Orleans' defense has not been very impressive, aside from the Panthers game, when they are going up against horrible competition. But I think both teams find a way to get over that 37 mark collectively. Getting back into college football, we got our first week of bowl games starting on the 16th. Jacksonville State playing University of Louisiana in the New Orleans Bowl. -3, I like Jacksonville State to win that one and cover that spread. Then you have Miami of Ohio +6 against Appalachian State in the Cure Bowl. They won the MAC championship, so I feel like they have a little bit of momentum. I don't think there are a ton of opt-outs for them. I don't think for either team here. I think Joey Aguilar is going to play for Appalachian State. He's pretty good, but I do think that Miami at least is able to cover that one. Although, like I kind of said before, it's such a crapshoot with these bowl games because there are so many opt-outs, but with some of these smaller level bowls and games and teams, like there aren't as many star players on them. Like obviously, like the amount of players from Miami of Ohio or Jackson State or University of Louisiana that go to the pros are super low, which means there aren't as many opt-outs. So it's a little bit easier for these. New Mexico State -3.5 against Fresno State in New Mexico Bowl. New Mexico State, basically a home game. You know, the fact that they get to play in like their own state's bowl game, whereas Fresno has to travel all the way from California. So I like them to cover. UCLA -4 against Boise State. I feel like Boise State had such a roller coaster of a season. You know, having that interim head coach, still going on to win the Mountain West Championship. But I mean, that's it. Like they've, you know, accomplished all they've wanted to now. It's like, all right, we won our, you know, we had a crazy comeback throughout the season. We still won the conference championship, and that's all we care about. You know, screw this LA Bowl. We'll give it to UCLA. Then Western Kentucky. This is a super weird Monday 1:30 p.m. game. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know who's going to watch this game. The famous Toastery Bowl sounds like a new bowl. Western Kentucky +2.5 is my bet against Old Dominion. Western Kentucky has always been good in these bowl games. I remember a few years ago when Bailey Zappi played in the Western Kentucky bowl game because he was going for the touchdown record to surpass Joe Burrow, which he did. I remember, I think he finished the season with over like 65 around their touchdown passes, and I think he had like 5 in that bowl game for Western Kentucky. So in terms of bowl games, like that's kind of Western Kentucky's jam. And yeah, that's what I have for my best bets.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Did you add a pick to my best bets? Did you add Houston money line?
No.
I thought you did that as a joke. I feel like there's no way
Dude,
I put this in there.
Dude,
Bro, what?
You had that in there. I was
there's
looking
no
at that
way.
over there. I was like looking at your best bets, and I was just kind of conceptualizing in my head, like,
what?
I'm sure you're probably going to say, like, oh, there's probably good value in that because Houston's still like a good team. I thought that's what you were going to say.
Dude, no, I don't know why I even put that in there. I must have been a little distracted. Like I don't know what I was doing.
Tuesday morning you is a little different than Dude, Tuesday evening you.
Oh, it definitely was, yeah. All right, but so I'm going to roll the Chargers and the Raiders over 33.5. Now,
Whoa.
So I know that this game, it seems like it would go under, but dude, 98% of the public was betting the under. I've never seen...
That's a little concerning.
I have never seen a number that high on CBS Sports. So
you're betting on the stick, though? E-stick?
Yeah, dude, you have to bet. Well, and on O'Connell. O'Connell.
I mean, I bet on the Raiders to put up like 17 points, but...
I mean, I'm basically betting against 98% of the stakes, bro. Like 98%, Vegas is going to hawk that money from everyone, bro.
Was that on CBS Sports that you saw that?
It was yesterday, but I'm sure it's probably like 70% now.
That's still wild, though. Let's see here. See where it's at. Still 90% on the under.
Wow. Well, I feel
like
it's
at 34 now.
You've got to roll with the over.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally a fair pick. Honestly, I'm a little unsure about this one. This one I would stay away from, but I still would lean the under just because it feels like the Chargers won't be able to score any more than 10.
I mean, it totally does feel that way. I just don't like the idea of betting with the public there.
I like 21-10, dude. Like, that's just kind of what I'm feeling.
Yeah, okay. Next, I've got Washington at the Rams, over 49. I already kind of mentioned this one. I really think this game's going to be like a 60-point combined total. Third, we're going with Denver money line. Really like Denver to come in here. Positive value. They're underdogs here against Detroit. I like them this week. And then last, rolling with the Giants +6. Giants have been doing well, and they're 6-point underdogs. It's basically a full touchdown. That seems like kind of a significant amount of points to give to a team that's been so hot lately. So I'm also going to bet the Giants +6 against New Orleans.
Yeah, I can definitely get behind both of those picks, even though I do think that the Lions are going to win. There's definitely some good rationale there. But that's all we have for you guys. Thank you, as always, for listening. And yeah, hopefully you listened last week, because I had some good best bets. Some good bets to consider. Hopefully we can get the trend going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do want to add just a little bit of recent news here. So I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you did, that Riley Leonard is now officially at Notre Dame.
For sure.
So he was the quarterback for Duke last year, and he kind of got injured in the game against Notre Dame. No. Sam Hartman stayed behind, wanted to check up on Riley, make sure that he was okay after the game. Great sportsmanship out of those two, and now Riley is going to be following in Hartman's footsteps, playing for Notre Dame next year.
Yeah, I do have a few thoughts on that. I mean, I remember when I was watching the Duke game, I was so mad that Notre Dame was even struggling to beat them that I was like yelling. And like when he got injured, like I was like, so mean of me. But yeah, maybe Sam Hartman's move honestly encouraged him to come over just because of how friendly Notre Dame probably seemed to him. But I would have preferred a couple other quarterbacks, honestly. Yeah. I think I would have preferred Cam Ward to him, but I think it's still a really good option, and I'm excited to see what he brings as long as he stays healthy. I like it. I like the move for sure.
Yeah, he's a mobile, very mobile kind of rusher kind of guy, more so than I think Hartman was, so I think he could be effective.
Tough look for our Jazz partner, Steve Angeli, though.
Yeah, I know. Very sad. Maybe he's even listening to the show, but he will not have the starting job next year. But I did see that it says he's starting for the bowl game, though.
He is starting for the bowl game because honestly, surprisingly, Sam Hartman opted out. I think there's not much, there's like three options. I really think like there's no way he plays that bad in the bowl game that he damages his draft stock even more than he already did against Clemson and Louisville.
Yeah.
So that leaves a couple other options. You either play pretty good and you improve your draft stock, or you get injured and it doesn't really matter anyways because your draft stock was already damaged because of how poorly you played against Clemson and Louisville. So honestly, I don't really like that move at all, and it makes the bowl game just so meaningless to me, so stupid. I was considering going, but at this point,
not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely not. So yeah, there you have it. Thank you guys again, and we will see you later on in the week.